Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beyond the Arc podcast. Once again, I'm here with my co-hosts Sam Yip and Asseo from Hoopside. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Yeah. Okay, Cal Poly, we beat Stanford yesterday. First Power Four win since 2012.
Good
First win
stuff.
over first win over an ACC program ever. First time beating Stanford in basketball since 1976.
Yeah, I
So
went to Kansas, so KU's looking like we're gonna be pretty good this year.
Jayhawks better watch out for the Mustangs.
Yeah, we're real scared.
It was a historical night though for Cal Poly, so it was a good time. I was watching with my friend, so it was a good game. We won 97-90. It was a high scoring game. Yeah, it was super cool to watch. But yeah, we can get into our NBA discussion today. So you guys, Sam, you're going to Lakers Clippers games. Cyro, you're going to Miami Heat. Let's just call it media availabilities. Um, maybe you guys want to talk. Maybe Siri, you want to go first. Talk about a little bit what you've seen from the Heat. I know you did a Pell Larson story.
Yeah, I did. Is it Pell or Pele? Is it Pell?
You
You
probably know
tell
better than
what?
me.
You interviewed him.
I called him
Yeah.
Pele. I called him Pele to his face, bro. So and he responded, and I feel like an asshole if I that either way.
That's probably his name then. I think it's
Larson
L.
First off, Pele Larson, guy is a stud. He was somebody that I actually wasn't as high on coming into the draft just because I didn't know if he was gonna be able to like scale up. I just thought like he had like tools to be a good like international player, maybe like sticks around the NBA. But he really is a guy that in future scouting reports I'm gonna definitely take note of his style. That he was one of those guys in college who was like able to do a little bit of everything, was more of a 3-point shooter, but like wasn't taking them at a large volume, and he's been able out of necessity to be put into the rotation and has been able to contribute not only as a floor spacer but defensively and as a guy who's starting to kickstart fast breaks when he grabs a rebound and able to put the ball on the deck. So it's cool to see that. Terry Rozier's basically being worked in. One thing I've realized is this team doesn't have a real table setter, and just from what I've gotten is they're gonna force the Terry Rozier minutes because they need to validate the trade that they made, if that makes sense. So until they give up on that or it figures itself out, they're gonna try to work through these adjustments and the acclimation of Terry Rozier because it has been rough at times. I think Jimmy starting to get his legs under him. He's leading the league, I believe, in free throw attempts per game. Bam and Tyler Hero. I mean, Tyler Hero's looking phenomenal, and he's just slowly, kind of like seeming like he's like a leader of the team. And yeah, I just think the squad's just going through the motions of like of a regular Miami Heat season. So I can't tell you what it would be in prior seasons, but it just kind of seems like they're just doing what the Heat do and just figuring out who's their part of their core rotation and just trying to get ready for the playoffs, which is 60 games away, but that's what the Heat care for the most.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, they're 9-8. It does kind of feel like another ordinary Heat season where at the end, come playoff time, that's not a team you want to face just with the level of experience and versatility and all the problems that team brings. I mean, do you see them kind of making a similar run maybe they have in like years past in playoffs where they were or like they're the 8 seed and then they made it all the way? And do you kind of maybe foresee that at all?
I think with the Miami Heat, that's always a possibility. It'd be foolish to think otherwise. I think it all comes down to the biggest thing is health. I think that's for any team, especially with this season. That health has been such a detriment to so many teams' successes. That I think it's going to come down to health, and I also think it's going to come down to how does their guys look? Is Duncan Robinson fire? Is he on a hot streak? Because we know he can get cold at times. Is Tyler Hero healthy? Is Bam Adebayo, firing on all cylinders? Same with Jimmy Butler. Have they figured out the Terry Rozier minutes? Will Jay Richardson be healthy? Will Kevin Love be healthy? Will they have solid front court depth behind Bam Adebayo as Khalil Ware, Thomas Bryant, Kevin Love are there? So I think if those questions can be figured out, yeah, they can. I think the Heat are always the team that are the dark horse. They have the players there. It's all a big question of availability and if the team's deep enough. Because I feel like last year they just a combination of injuries and I don't think it was working anymore. So that's why that some like it felt like not it wasn't working, but it felt like it wasn't like chemistry wise working right there. So I feel like another year of continuity with Terry Rozier fully in the fold hopefully gets that ready. But again, it's the Miami Heat, so you always got to count them.
Yeah. I see Jimmy Butler's only averaging 19 points per game. Is that just kind of the level you think he's at this point, or is just he's kind of taking it easy to start the season?
I think he's taking it easy. I mean, he's still getting to the free throw line. And I think Jimmy, for even if you look at it for like the past couple seasons, is last year was a 20-point scorer, and he's this year so far he's shooting what 33% from three on 53% from the field. So I mean he's up there in turn. Like his efficiency numbers are similar to the from 2 years ago when they did go on that run in the regular season. And the other thing is that historically he's been a guy that when you get into the playoffs, last 2 years ago was the case when he 27 points, before that 27 points, and he was only 22. So I mean, dude, he averaged 19 points a game in his first season in Miami. So I just think that's like Tyler Hero is the main scorer on this team. Jimmy Butler doesn't have to worry about scoring to like that type of scoring to the playoffs when he's playing 40 minutes a night.
Cool, good to get a little Heat update. Sam, anything you've pulled from Lakers Clippers games or any media availabilities?
Yeah, well, Clippers have been on the road this past week. They're back for home. They have like 4 games this week, upcoming week. On the Lakers side, they have kind of they've dropped a lot of games since they lost to that Orlando Franz Wagner shot. I think they had like a couple games at home, and then they were on the road for a bit, a couple more games, and then I think their defense has kind of dropped off since like the start of the season. And I know at the start of the season they played a lot of weak opponents. That's why their record was more like a mirage than what it really was. I think the big problem with the Lakers right now is they just don't have the consistency from like the three, 4, 5 options, and then you got guys like Gabe Vincent eating the MLE, not doing much, still getting a good chunk of minutes. D'Angelo, Rui, they've all been inconsistent in terms of the box score. Even like the stuff that aren't in the box score, like you can just see them kind of running back and forth on the court. Like they're just doing cardio, and that's not a good thing. And then LeBron has, I think, kind of similar to just Jimmy Butler thing. LeBron's stats have not been like what he was. I think it was last year. I think he was like in the high 20s. I think he's kind of conserving his energy for. I wouldn't be too concerned about him. Like, oh, he's old now and stuff. Wait till like after the All-Star break. I think he'll turn it on as long as he's healthy. I think AD his stats have not been as great. Might be the issue with the eye. I think it's still bothering him a bit. But I mean, Dalton Knecht has been like the one steady option. Austin Reeves got hurt. I don't know if you guys saw. He took like a hard fall to his back last game. He came out and he came back in. He wasn't that effective. Might have been better if he just sat out. But I mean, they played a very good OKC team. They lost to. And they hung tough with them until the end. A couple bad. I think Max Christie said something about. He during the last stretch there, he kind of JJ Redick said that he signaled to Max to, I believe it was to play defense, and I think Max thought he said to foul, and then that was a miscommunication there. So they just got to clean up a lot of these attention to detail, these small things up, to give themselves a better chance to compete against these top teams. Because a lot of these wins that they've been getting have just been against bad teams, and I mean, you should beat those bad teams, but you should also, if you're going to be like at least out of the play-in, you gotta at least the top 6. You gotta like win at least half of these games against like good teams. Clippers are back in town. It'll be interesting just to see. I know Norm Powell's been out for a while. I think he's missed 6 games now. They really do need his offense because right now it's just James Harden. You can't count on him to be consistent every night, to give you 30 or 25. Um, Zubac is doing what he always does. He's a legit underrated center in the league. Um, but yeah, I mean the thing with the Clippers is their defense holds them intact every game, so it's usually going to be a close game regardless whoever they're playing. So, and they have Ty and Stan coaching them, so that's a good thing on their end.
Yeah. Um, Going back to the Lakers stuff, I mean, you just look at their outside of like you get LeBron AD of course, and then Connect Reeves is like your 3-4 option or third or fourth best player at this point, and then you're like to D'Angelo Russell. I think Rui Hachimura has been all right, but he's only averaging 12 points per game. And then after even those two who have been a little bit up and down, it gets it gets pretty shaky. I mean, you're talking about Max Christie, who has like good flashes, but I don't know if he's like a positive NBA player yet. And then their big depth is like Jackson Hayes,
You're like
who's injured, but
3 and 4 for Max Christie. Like this is the time when you kind of have to figure it out. So it's like now or never at this point. And he's getting burned finally. Darvin wasn't really playing him the last couple of years, and that was one of the big disconnects Darvin and the front office had of not playing Max Christie. But I mean, Christie's getting run now, and hopefully he starts. The more reps he gets, the better he gets. But he's got to be a lot better, honestly, in terms of offensively and even defensively. Sometimes he had a lot of like brain farts, like just lets guys slip through and stuff. So, um, yeah,
yeah. Well, he's supposed to be a 3-and-D wing, but you got to actually do those things to be
yeah,
playable. So, yeah. Sam, I want to talk a little bit about you did an interview with Robert Covington, who's currently playing with that the Team USA. It's just they're trying to qualify, right, for
yeah.
whatever the
America
next tournament is, America.
qualifier. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, what did you kind of get from that interview?
Yeah, I just kind of talked to him. I think it was a good 20-minute convo I had with him. He was on the bus after practice. Just kind of really just wanted to talk to him about mostly like why he wasn't on the team. I didn't really bring it up. He just kind of started talking about it. He was like, he said he was like kind of confused and kind of disappointed that no one really contacted him over the summer, to gauge his interest to be on a team. Um, I mean, honestly, I feel like he can still play. He didn't really play the last couple of years of the Clippers and the Sixers for a bit last year. Um, I think he was kind of in a way he felt like he still had a lot of left in the tank, and teams were giving him a chance. And he was very disappointed with the Clippers in the sense that he wasn't better utilized. Um, and I didn't want to press him too hard on that because that's kind of a sore spot for someone's career, especially a team like the Clippers when they were down so many guys, right? Like Kawhi and PG over the year, they were always down, but he never really got off the bench. Like it was very when he played like the last couple years when I went to the games, he was always at the end of the bench, and you saw him more run throwing towels to fans than actually getting on the court and contributing. So that so that wasn't
What a
like
line.
that was like me and some media people would always be talking. Hey, look, there's a real coach just throwing the towels to the fans. Like he was getting paid like I think it was like almost 20 mil. Like he's being paid 20 mil to throw towels to fans. Um, but yeah, and I asked him the question about in terms of like, do you feel like teams are kind of just catering to give like young guys more opportunities even when they haven't proven themselves two-way contracts right out of college or overseas and stuff. I feel like he didn't want to say like adamantly yes because I asked the same question to like older retired players and they're very like so much in the camp of like yeah like they need to get more veterans on teams but maybe Rocco didn't want to kind of upset teams in terms of maybe potentially giving him a chance down the road so he gave he said like yes and no and stuff. But I feel I could tell like he kind of agrees with it. There's a lot of these guys, they're just coming into the league. They don't, the two-way guys. You got for them to even get confidence. If they're not proven, you either got to play in the G League or they've got to get minutes in the NBA. And a lot of these guys, two-way guys, are sitting at the end of the bench. They're not even playing much. So Rocco was kind of like, like I could legit be on the team right now and probably contribute and be positive impact player. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what mostly I got from him. Mostly just talked about that, and then a bit of his career, and yeah, he seemed a little confident that he would end up on the team again. I know Jay Crowder got a chance the other day with the Kings. I don't know if you got
Hooked on
something
his
about
first night, made Julius Randle look like a little boy.
yeah. I don't know if he got was it like a 10-day or rest of the season contract. I'm not
I
really
think the
sure.
rest of the season.
Rest
Rest
of
of the
it's a
season?
non-guaranteed deal, I do believe, and also what's called 10-day contracts have not begun. Those begin in January.
Okay, yeah. So like like there's going to be injuries and stuff around the league, and I mean Rocco should get a chance. He's not that bad. I know he's not like what he was in his 20s. Like he can't guard people like he did, but I mean he's a better defensive player than Klay Thompson, right? At this point, so
Trade
I would
Clay Thompson just picks
yeah. I
random.
mean Klay just let guys go by him now, and it's like I feel like Klay got his contract and everything just based on his name, really. Like he still has some duds sometimes from shooting, so you know. So that's yeah. So that's really what I really got from Rocco, and yeah.
Yeah, that made me think about when I was reading that and like how NBA teams are building out that back end of their roster. Because I think now more than ever having a lot of players that can play in a roster is just big. Because number one, injuries because of how the pace of play has just increased and the wear and tear and guys probably going up compared to maybe past years. Because the distance I feel like guys are asked to cover like defensively, like rotating from under the basket, help responsibilities, closing it all the way to the corner, like that sort of wear and tear I think builds on guys, and also just like teams are trying to play faster offensively too. So guys are getting up and down way more. So which is why I think it feels like there's just so many injuries now. But yeah, I was trying to think of some like current vets, right, or NBA teams that kind of have those, Udonis Haslam type vets that are not really playing, but in theory are providing some value to a locker room. So the names I remember now is Taj Gibson, who's on the Hornets, Garrett Temple, who's on the Toronto Raptors, James Johnson on the Pacers. I don't know if you guys can think of any more besides those three. I cannot off the top of my head.
You said
but
Taj Gibson already, right?
Taj Gibson, yeah.
Yeah. I guess you would say Steven Adams technically in Houston.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think he's still expected to be like their backup center when he's back though.
Yeah, I know, but like, okay, yeah, I guess that one. I'm trying to think.
Is Garrett Temple on? Is there someone on the Magic?
I was literally trying to think of the
Gary
Magic.
Harris?
No,
I
but
don't think
they
he plays,
Gary
though.
Harris plays, and like he's not like. I get what you're saying, just kind of
Corey
like
Joseph? Where's Corey Joseph?
I
Yeah,
guess
Corey
Corey Joseph could
Yeah.
be the guy. Corey Joseph in Orlando. Houston has Jeff Green and
Yes,
Jay
Jeff
Shaw,
Green, yeah.
and then
All you need to do is look at NBA Players Association. Look at their executive committee, and usually that list.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on maybe that whole development where, there's teams that I think that have, built out the end of their bench really nice. Like OKC has legit, 10, 13, I think the Warriors too, Grizzlies, Celtics, like they're able to kind of just like pull guys out of nowhere versus like the Lakers, Bucks, Nuggets have gotten like pretty much nothing from their development. Like, they haven't just got guys out of, undrafted
I
free
think
agents or anyone to contribute.
I think it's an ecosystem with the Grizzlies, OKCs. Like they have to operate like a small market mindset, so they really have to go into thinking our system here is what people buy into. So a guy like Caruso comes in, Hartenstein comes in. Like I know, I think it was Jalen Williams or the coach the other night against the Lakers after the game. They were said Hartenstein just came in and they fit in seamlessly. The coach pretty much said feels like he's been here the last couple of years, and he played for the Knicks the last couple of years. So a lot of that is kind of their intel. They kind of already know what type of players are good fit for their teams. You got teams like the Lakers and like they're the teams that they literally have the Grizzlies bench on their team. Grizzlies current bench was the Lakers like South Bay team the last couple of years. J Hub, Scottie Pippen Jr. I think the Colin Castleton's on that team too. So
Yep, Colin Castleton.
so I think Memphis is just picking guys off the Lakers like South Bay team. I wouldn't expect Bronny a couple of years to be with the Grizzlies and putting up Scottie Pippen Jr. numbers, but that's kind of besides the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's the ecosystem thing. I think the thing too is that you got to think about the Lakers, right? Like they're in a time crunch with LeBron and like AD. Like they're putting pressure on them to give us guys that can contribute right now, and you see them kind of overreach. Like Palenka over the years, like did that trade for Russell Westbrook when they already had like a good core of young guys that could have just kept with the Lakers and developed longer. And he thought Russell Westbrook bringing him in would put them over the top. It's like they're operating on different mindsets, and like small market teams have more patience with guys. Like they can kind of tinker stuff and try things out and not get as much pressure from the media and fans, right? But you got franchises like the Lakers and the Warriors. They have to kind of figure it out. You got to win now. Like the Warriors have lost for 4 in a row now, right? A week ago, it was all rosy for them. Like, oh, it looks like they're a legit contender. Now everyone's like, oh, are they a playing team now? Like that's all like some on Twitter. People are like, oh, Steph Curry, should he retire and stuff? Like that's not serious stuff. But it's just like a lot of this pressure from fans and stuff. It's just not. It's very different. Working for it would be good to kind of get perspective from guys that work with the Lakers or the Warriors, and then guys that work with like the Magics, the Grizzlies, the OKCs and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with going off of you right there. Is that I do think it's these vets that are helping out the young guys, but I think those guys aren't playing, but I think it's kind of, if you remember Juwan Howard, his last few years in the NBA, he literally just wore a suit on the sideline for the Miami Heat, and he was a player coach. And I remember speaking over the last 2 years on the circuit that there aren't any more player coaches, and that the Ty Corbins, the Kevin Willis, the guys who were playing to their early 40s and just little to no minutes, but basically being that middleman between coach and player, as they could kind of like a Udonis Haslem. And I think that's part of the reason why Haslem had such a long career. And I think we're starting to see that come back, especially with AAU, college basketball, and lower levels of American basketball not fundamentally preparing players for the NBA. So we're starting to see the teams that do have successful development programs. We even saw the Thunder that they kept around Mike Muscala or one old guy every season on the roster. And I think during this Mark Daigneault era of rebuild with Sam Presti, so I think this is showing or foreshadowing the return of the player coach, that veteran, that guy, more than likely an NBA PA executive, like Sam said, sticking around the league longer than you would think, especially when they do expand the roster sizes. Just because you have a Garrett Temple there, he's going to be able to convey the message that Darko Rajakovic is trying to convey more efficiently to the players if they aren't already getting it when Darko says it. He can also be on the floor and help further implement that said idea, philosophy, whatever you may call it. And I think that is a strategy we are seeing, that the better development teams have a few, at least one, if not a few veterans on the team to help, foster that culture of understanding how to play basketball.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think too there is a balance though between getting a guy like, Gibbs. I think Taj Gibson has played like a little bit just because the Hornets are down like 3 centers right now. But Garrett Temple and James Johnson don't play at all. But at the same time, you do want guys. I think there's like 2 different things we're talking about here with like the Garrett Temple, James Johnson types versus like getting guys in their development system and like preparing them to like be on their team like. Mm-hmm. Like what Sam was saying with the Grizzlies / Lakers guys. By the way, that kind of shows the Lakers like they're good at like talent evaluation, but just like once they get in the building, it doesn't always work. Although Jalen Hood-Schifino, that was
yeah. Like every team's gonna have bad picks once, like every years and stuff. So
I was never
that was a really bad pick though.
Like I was high on him in the sense that I wasn't high on him. Let me take that. they took him too high. Like, I saw him as like, oh, like he's a good like late first. I also don't think he's a guard. I've always said this. I think he's a wing, a swing man. I think that like the best I've said this. I even told this to his face. I said, I was like, oh, like what do you think about being kind of like a Quentin Grimes or like a like kind of like a Quentin Grimes or Austin Reeves type guy, where like you're a guard in college, but in the NBA they move you more to the wing position, swing man, where you're kind of a three. You'll play sometimes the two, but like you're a three, and they like to use you in transition and stuff like that. Like I thought he was gonna follow Quentin Grimes. I really thought he could mimic a similar development to Quentin Grimes and be a similar player to Quentin Grimes.
Lakers are not a team where you can kind of develop, and they won't cultivate that. They just not.
But do you guys see what I'm saying though? Like my whole hope was like, hey, you aren't a point guard, you aren't a shooting guard. You're like, you could maybe be similar to what Quentin Grimes is for the Knicks and Mavericks now.
Yeah, that's actually super interesting. And like I think Brandon Pajemski, I feel like kind of plays that similar role where he's not like a primary guard, but plays more within their system, like off the ball. Dante Exum too. That's another name that sticks out. That is kind of what you're referring to. Yeah, I really like that idea of turning, maybe a guard who's a good guard in college who's like not exactly ready to like handle that type of usage at the NBA level.
He's not a table setter.
He's not a table setter, exactly. So you move him to the wing where, like, hey, now he's like a plus ball handler.
Kickstart the fast breaks in the transition. He'll be able to be kind of a tertiary, like a third
tertiary
playmaker for a team that kickstarts transitions and then, works on his 3-point shot. Literally just beat Quentin Grimes. I always thought he was just like best case scenario Quentin Grimes, and like you said, floor Dante Exum.
Yeah. Trying to think of some other guys too. I think Pritchard for the Celtics. I mean, he's stuck around in the NBA for a long time. It's really cool to hear. Just kind of side note, but because he's been on a couple podcasts, just kind of talking about his mindset. Like, hey, like he doesn't always get to play, but he's always kind of stayed ready. Now he's like a mainstay of the rotation and like huge off the bench for them. Like he'll just go on these huge scoring outbursts that turn the game. And then the Cavs too. I mean, the Cavs have, I think a big development too. Not only are they kind of figuring out that starting lineup a little bit better, but also Ty Jerome coming out of nowhere, and he's bounced around the league for the past 4 or 5 years after coming out of Virginia, and he was pretty much, I feel like, on the brink of like just not really being in the NBA anymore, like going more overseas, and now he's found his way back in. Dean Wade too was also a really good find for the Cavs. He's been kind of developing for them for a while. Was Sam Merrill on a different team before the Cavs, or has he always
Bucks?
Been the Cavs?
He was on the Bucks.
That's right.
He was on
the
Bucks.
Yeah. He was actually pretty solid on the Bucks too, I thought.
He just got roster like salary crunch number, like they just couldn't fit him on the roster.
Replaced him with AJ Green.
Yeah, replaced him with AJ Green.
Yeah.
And then I think the OKC is kind of like the ideal version of this, where you have like Aaron Wiggins. Like I don't even know. Like when did Aaron Wiggins get drafted? I don't even know. Like I don't even know when he came into the NBA.
Was it 22, 21?
2021.
Who?
Aaron Wiggins.
Aaron Wiggins.
When he came out?
When he drafted?
Yeah,
he was either a late second round pick or he was undrafted. He was a 2021 out of Maryland.
Yeah. And then Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe. Like Isaiah Joe got cut from the Sixers.
He was that was a legit salary crunch. I think that was because of contracts and stuff like that. I think he was a training camp cut, that he was like the only non-guaranteed contract. So basically it was either cut a guy who had a guaranteed contract or cut the guy with a non-guaranteed contract. You know what I mean?
These small market teams, they literally have to, they're scouring all these roster crunchers, like Cyro said, and seeing which guys will fit best for whatever fit they need for their roster, because they can't pay. They're usually not in the luxury tax and stuff, so they're trying to find like the cheaper guys. Like
Tyrese Martin is a guy
Tyrese Martin, yeah,
for the Nets. Yeah. He's a guy that like I've literally told Scott this past offseason. I was like, look, this is like a guy that if there were expansion, he'd be part of the off the bench rotation for the 31st or 32nd team in the NBA. But because there isn't, he has to be on a two-way. But this guy, every time he plays in the G League, he's like one of, if not the best G League player. He's basically averaged 27-5 or 27-3 in the G for like the last 2 or 3 years. And then when he plays in the NBA, he puts up numbers. But there's tons of guys like that they basically have to wait 2 or 3 years on a two-way till somebody phases out of the NBA or gets hurt, and then they get their opportunity, kind of like an Aaron Wiggins, Kenrick Williams, and then or Duncan Robinson, and then they convert on that, capitalize on that. Yeah, like a guy you probably want to keep an eye out who could like arguably be the next white boy shooter. I've said is Riley Minix for San Antonio. Yeah, I saw that guy dribble the basketball off his foot in Portsmouth, but the guy has one of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen.
Yeah, but what's stopping like a big? Boston's a big market team, and they're still. Let's see. Jordan Walsh is all right. Neemias Queta, Peyton
They
Pritchard,
took him from the Kings, and the Kings
Sam Hauser.
So they did it with Neemias Queta. Neemias Queta was a guy that I've loved since Utah State, and I've never understood why the Kings were having Alex Lynn and I forget who it was, whoever else besides Domas in front of Queta was on a two-way for like 2 years, and then eventually roster crunch happens. They cut him. And Celtics were the team that picked him up as soon as he cleared waivers of the two-way. They gave him like a non-guaranteed multi-year deal. Or no, they picked him up on a two-way and then signed him to at the end of the year before the playoff run to a non-standard. So I think teams are just looking at it's a lot of these guys. It's the roster crunch,
Yeah. I'm just looking at the Lakers. Like, why can't the Lakers do something like that?
Smallest scouting staff in the league.
Lakers do?
What did you say? What's scouting?
Lakers have the smallest scouting staff
in the league.
Lowest? Yeah, I've been hearing that. Because they don't. The thing with the Lakers, they like to only hire you if you've worked for them before. They know you personally.
Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but our buddy who's close with the Lakers, he told us or I don't know if you were with us when he told us this, but he said when Pelinka came in. He got rid of all of which Bus brother was it? The one who was doing the GM that Pelinka replaced or Magic replaced?
Johnny? No, not Johnny. Like her brother, right?
Her brother. Yeah. What's his name again? Is it Jim? I'm literally blanking on. Jimmy Bus's brother.
I think it was Jim.
Jim. So when Jim got out,
J's in their,
yeah. Jim and Johnny, and Jeannie.
Jim, Johnny, Jeannie.
Yeah. Okay, so when Mitch Kupchak got let go and they moved to the Magic, they got rid of their scouting department, and Rob Pelinka brought in his guys, and it's supposedly the smallest front office and the smallest scouting department in the league. We were told. And it used to be one of the bigger ones under Kupchak, and if you remember, that's when they had a bunch of guys.
Getting guys.
The thing about back then, they used to have Playboy models as scouts on their payroll.
Wait, really?
Wait, what?
Wait.
Serious, yeah. This is when their dad was still owner, but Mitch was around then. So, but that's the owner's MO, right?
But Mitch was the one who found Jordan Clarkson, Josh Hart, and all those guys, Kuzma, and all those picks was the Mitch Kupchak scouting department. And since then, it has shrunk to, from what we were told by someone who's a long time Lakers media person, that it has become the smallest and the most exclusive scouting department in the league.
That's never a good thing. You need eyes in every coast and stuff, honestly, or part of the world, really, not even just the coast. Just to find talent, honestly. Now,
and it makes sense just looking at the guys they have on their roster. They have guys that are former sort of flashier, bigger names that probably were with a bigger agency, and that's why they end up with Lakers. I'm thinking of Christian Wood, Cam Reddish, Jackson Hayes, former lottery pick, guys like that who are maybe a bigger name, so you take a swing at them hey, maybe they can find some of that production here, and none of those guys have really done much with the Lakers at all. So now that makes sense, because I heard too they had a really good scouting department back in the day, but it makes sense that that's kind of flipped around a bit. Because
nepotism.
Well, I know the younger brother. He's really good at scouting. I think his name is.
From what we were told was Jim Well, okay, Mitch was forced to groom Jim to be his apprentice, like by Jerry. Dr. Bus kind of forced Jim, or not, Jim wanted to do it, but forced Mitch to take Jim under his wing. And
Yeah,
from what I've gathered, Sam could probably talk anymore, there is a lot of internal feuding over the nepotism that was forced upon the executives by Dr. Bus. And that ultimately led to the collapse and led to Genie getting it and Palinka coming in, which furthered the nepotism because Palinka's an agent. And long story there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. But yeah, like the Lakers, like just with their salary structure, like they need to find guys on the margins. Like that should be a focus for them. I mean, Austin Reeves is a really good find, and that was under Kupchak. Connect, I guess, is a pretty good
Caruso was
one, but they've
under
also had some
Kupchak
big
as
duds.
well, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
they've done it. They just haven't been able to utilize it in this day and age.
Or
Like
even
they've
like
done
they
it.
just completely mismanage it, right? Like I'm thinking of Alex Caruso, right? They found Alex Caruso out of nowhere,
Yeah.
undrafted free agent. He probably would have been a second round guy, but he probably did, the second round, I want to go where I want to go sort of deal. Like they chose him, or they chose Taylor Horton Tucker over Alex Caruso and let Caruso walk. And
Okay, but you're forgetting that Taylor Horton Tucker, I believe, had just come off like an impressive showing where, first off, Taylor Horton Tucker's 6'4" with like a 7'1" or 7'2" wingspan. It is an insane like body type. And I do believe when they had signed him to that extension, he had just came off a run. I gotta make sure that this was. I'm going to StatMuse, but he had just had like an impressive showing. When did they sign him to this contract? First off, when was the extension
well, I
given?
mean, since the Lakers, he's been on what, two different teams since then, since he got.
Oh, yeah. So we're
Well,
contract. I
and
mean,
who's THT's representation still? Clutch, right? That's probably what. I mean, at least part of the
Yeah,
factor why he stuck around. Maybe there is an argument in terms of at the time, like, okay, yeah, you take Taylor Horton Tucker, but the bottom line is like Cruz is way better than Taylor Horton Tucker, at this point, right? So that was that. Although there is probably an argument that like, okay, like this is what they're thinking behind keeping THT over Caruso. Obviously, it hasn't worked out well at all.
yeah. So the thing with the Lakers have they've always done this. They will always overpay for stars, even if they're old and past their prime, but they will never pay market value to role players. And that's just how they've always done it. And it's screwed them, it's screwed them in the last over the last decade, I would say, just in terms of doing like paying Kobe when he's after he tore his Achilles all that money, and look where that got them for the next all the way till LeBron came. So it's hard. It's a hard true fact. So Laker fans don't want to hear it, but that's just how the Lakers have always been. LeBron's still productive and stuff, but what are you bringing with him? Like there's no all these role guys. You're just rotating them out. You don't want to pay Kuzma, let him go. You don't want to pay KCP, let him go. You don't want to pay Danny Green, let him go. Like this is just what they've always done. Even when they're good fits for the team, they're not willing to pay them the market value that other teams are willing to pay, and this is what happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of like guys on OKC now, like AJ Mitchell this year. Like he's been a really good contributor for them, and like
Rookie, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Was he second round or undrafted? I
who?
forgot. AJ
He was
Mitchell. He's second
AJ
round,
Mitchell
right?
was a second round pick,
Second. Okay.
but he's from Belgium and he played professional basketball before going. So
He went to
he
Santa
grew up
Barbara,
in
right?
huh?
Santa Barbara, yeah. So
Went to
I
Santa
watched him
Barbara.
play like a lot.
So I knew my boy, who's a degenerate basketball fan, told me last year around this time, keep your eye on AJ Mitchell. And when I watched him, I was like, oh damn, this guy's like a lankier Gabe Vincent.
It's
Yeah.
funny. It's
Yeah,
funny that
he's
they
like a
both went.
6'5" lefty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But Gabe Vincent on the Heat. Gabe Vincent on the Heat, not the current Gabe Vincent. Let's just let me remind you the good Gabe Vincent that we remember, but a lankier, like kind of like a microwave, shifty, left-handed, kind of scored on three levels. Isn't a primary table setter, but can run some offense.
yeah. He was a really good. I mean, he still is a really good passer, but he was a really good passer. Their offense was completely based around him. Santa Barbara was, and they had some guys on their team too. Like they had, you probably know this name, Cyro, Miles Norris.
Yeah, dude. He looks like Miles Norris and James Booknight have the same face.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like uncanny. It's uncanny. Miles Norris is if James Booknight was 6'8". I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I'm imagining in my head right now. That actually makes sense. That's pretty funny.
Now pull up James Booknight. It's uncanny.
Let me see. Oh yeah, they do. Oh
They
yeah,
could be
they
fucking
really do.
brothers. They could be brothers.
Yeah.
It's like, it's absolutely uncanny. I'd always look at Miles Norris. I'm like, dude, you guys have to have the same dad.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess any other teams you guys want to point out, like, hey, they've done a good job in terms of like
I mean,
accumulating.
the Heat as well. Heat are good at like
Yeah,
finding guys.
he have been good at that for like a really
Yeah,
long time.
Heat are very good at that. I mean, they're also a team that doesn't like to spend too much on players. Get guys on the discount and stuff. So
I mean, for me, when we look at just the development of finding talent, I think another one, I think they've just done a really good job. OKC, we talked about Jay, Will, Isaiah Joe. They've been the team. Another man's trash is another man's treasure. I think Atlanta also, they've done a good job of finding, or like another team that's been able to turn trades into players like Garrison Matthews. He's a guy who's like went from the Rockets to the Hawks.
would you say after Travis Strink, like they've been finding guys, or this is during the Travis era?
No, this is This is like in the last like 15 months once Nick Wrestler got kicked out.
Which is like, it's very quickly coming together. I'm very surprised of how they managed to find guys and turn out.
Well, because I think it is
Daniels and stuff.
when they kicked the owner's son, Nick Wrestler, out of the front office. They brought in a bunch of Spurs and like a bunch of like guys who had like adults. They put a bunch of adults in the room around Landry Fields. Landry Fields clearly is a competent or has an eye for talent, and so did Kyle Korver as both former players. And I think they were both smart, and they were like, hey, we don't know what we're really doing, but like we feel like we have the ability to do this job. Let's bring in people who've been in these positions, like older guys. So I think they brought in a bunch of guys from the Spurs and other places of the league, and to like help teach them the ways of being an exec. But I think you just see it in Memphis as well. They have like the Twitter guys out there, and they've done a good job from Vince Williams. I mean, Santi Aldama was a guy I was high on, and that was a shocking 30th overall pick a few seasons ago, and now he looks like a guy who every single year has scaled up his game. He's gotten better incrementally, and he looks like a guy that if they don't extend him, he's going to be the type of guy who's going to get paid by another team, and we're going to act like he got overpaid, and then he's going to have a breakout campaign, and everyone's going to be like he's underpaid, like it was like Lowry Markkinen or something. No, I'm not saying he's getting that level, but you know what I mean by that. And you see with the Nuggets, with Christian Brown, Peyton Watson's been quiet this year, but last year he was somewhat of a revelation for them. I mean, Christian Brown replacing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope looks like it was a smart move. I know Zeke Nnaji wasn't the best thing. It comes down to, I think, teams just Dean Wade. If you watch Dean Wade in Kansas State and you tell me Dean Wade was going to have an NBA career with the Cavs, how it is, where he's going to be kind of one of the better defenders on that team and being able to play the 3 through 5, I'd say you're lying. And I think it's just, having good player developers in your coaching staff, while also having a front office who understands what their coaching staff is able to do and what players fit their coaching staff style, or hiring coaches, even if they do change coaches, that will fit their players, and being able to understand the art of roster building, that it's Tetris and it's not, just trying to spit square pegs and circle holes, or whatever you want to say.
Nice analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think this is going to be the next wave of like what teams should be focusing on in terms of putting more resources. Like the Lakers having the small scouting department, knowing, how much money they're bringing in every year. I feel like that's pretty, I don't know, unacceptable. Like they're a big market team. In theory, they have the resources, but they're operating like they don't. I mean, that doesn't really make sense to me at all. Um, but yeah, I think just in general with how the second apron's going to be, in terms of, or first and second apron, just restricting teams' roster building maneuvers. Teams really finding diamonds in the rough are going to be big, and I think there's going to be more players like that just with how grassroots basketball is turning in college basketball, where like got teams are really looking for like the transfer portal for older guys. So that means there's going to be younger guys who might start out now at like JUCO, D2, NAIA level, and then they're working their way up. So they might be a little bit older by the time they get to the Division 1 platform where people start to know them a little bit better. But I feel like there's gonna be guys like that are just gonna be overlooked. Just seeing how like the scene of basketball and development is going, I think there's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot more, kind of hidden value with players. I don't know if you guys kind of agree with that.
So what I was going to go off to carry off that point, but I think Pelle Larsson is going to exemplify what we're going to see in the future. Pelle Larsson played one season in Divisions 3 Swedish basketball, and then he played one season of top league Swedish basketball. And before signing a senior contract, he went and played, 3 years at Arizona, 4 years at Arizona. And I think he's going to be what we're going to see more often is these European guys. I mean, also the Hami Hakases of the world, where 4-year college guys, first round picks, come in, play, are able to be, day one rotational role players. But I think Pelle Larsson played at Utah, transfers to Arizona, and is a 4-year college player, comes into the NBA at 23 years old, and is already a guy who can come in and play 10, 12 minutes a night. And I think those are going to be your more and more common going to be your second round picks. And with the aprons, I think that's going to be a team building strategy you will see.
Yeah. Do you think teams are going to become more willing to like take older guys?
Yes.
Like lottery?
Yes. No, like, how old was Zach Edey? Zach Edey's 22?
Yeah, something like that.
I think for the Zach Edey's, and I mean, Chris Duarte is older than he actually is, from what I've been told, but what people thought Chris Duarte was. And so there's going to be guys there's always going to be guys that are going to be, so Zach Edey was a 4-year player. They're going to be guys, team fit wise, Buddy Hield, Chris Duarte, Zach Edey's, that if they have a skill or a trait that a team that is maybe in the lottery because of a gap year or in the lottery for the last time because they're ready to take that step, and you can be a lottery team even if you lose in the play-in. As we saw, the Atlanta Hawks made the play-in, lose it, and got the number 1 pick this past offseason. So there are going to be scenarios, I think, more frequently, especially as parity is being created with this aprons, that there are going to be situational fits. Zach Edey is one going where they needed a center who can just help alleviate the one thing Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't great at, is rebounding and being a big body. Even though he's a great defender, he's just not the big guy. That's why they've had Jonas Valanciunas and Steven Adams. And Zach Edey came in and, you got him on a cheap contract. So we're going to see that. Buddy Hield was another example for the Kings 10 years ago. He was a 4-year guy out of Oklahoma. He's arguably the greatest college shooter, 4-year college shooter of all time. So, and he was the 3rd or 4th pick? 5th pick?
Yeah.
At 22, 23 years old. Yeah. Buddy Hield was a top 5 pick, bro, at 22.
He was, yeah. Forgot about that.
Jeez. For a 4-year player, that's very rare.
Well, he was an insane shooter, bro. Buddy Hield coming out, everybody was literally
Not
going
top
like
5, number 6.
6.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But it was also
Go?
the Pelicans. Oh, I thought it was the Kings who drafted him. It was the Pelicans.
But
what a Kings pick.
But if you look at it, he scaled if you look at his college numbers, he got better every year, and his efficiency improved every year as a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he never missed a game. He's never missed his games. He's like an Iron Man.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No, I think that's a super interesting area of discussion. I think that's going to become more and more important, especially as years go on. Because the thing is, like, I think there's going to be more talent that is like kind of undiscovered or kind of gets lost in the shuffle because they have to start at lower levels with how the direction of college basketball is going. And then at the same time, I think teams are going to put more resources into this. So it's going to be like, more hidden talent, and there's more hidden talent to find that these teams are going to be looking forward to. And like even now, like for like me and you here, we look at a lot of like grassroots basketball stuff or like college basketball stuff, like guys that are like under the radar. It's become its like own little like mini industry sort of thing, like trying to find the next hidden gem. So there's plenty of people that are looking. I think people kind of reach with some of those sometimes, saying they're like the next great thing. Like I'm thinking of like I guess Grant Nelson was way better than the level that he was playing at. The Grant Nelson, Alabama now, North Dakota State.
I was about to say he should have stayed in the draft when he was in North Dakota State, where he had an insane showing in the combine. And then he used that insane showing to transfer to Alabama. I personally think it's not that he's underwhelmed at Alabama. It's just he exploded onto the scene during the pre-draft process and was being hyped as a borderline first-round pick, early second, because he had all these tools. He was a toolsy raw guy. Goes back to college. We get a year now. Going to be 2 more years of tape on him, and the jury's out. The jury's out on him, and it's not as hype. You know what I mean? We kind of like it was like you're not skilled enough. Like you have tools, but you're like not like you don't have touch. He doesn't have feel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he came to Cal Poly and played, and I remember like thinking like I didn't think he was like NBA good, but like I was like, dang, this guy's pretty much the best player on the floor. Like I remember he got this one block shot that like no one at the low mid-major level of Division I is ever getting. I was like, wow, that was like an eye-popping play. And he's also, the thing is though, he's probably getting way more money at Alabama than he would if he's in the NBA right now too.
Look, he's the white Derrick Jones Jr.
He's not that athletic. He's not like athletic like that, is he? Like
I think he tested. I think he tested with a 43-inch vertical at the combine.
Oh my gosh, and he's like 6'10". Isn't he?
He is 6'10". He had a standing vertical of 35.5, and
43 inches at 6'10" is crazy.
Either way. Okay, so almost a 36-inch vertical at 6'11" listed now. At 6'10" barefoot, 6'11" stand like with shoes. He's 230 pounds, 7-foot wingspan. Is pretty freaking insane.
Yeah, that's insane. He's just a lot bigger than Derrick Jones Jr. because Derrick Jones
he's
is like 6'5".
I think he's 6'6", 6'7". So yeah, he's like 4 or 5 inches taller. So either way, but I still stand by. He is kind of like that type. Derrick Jones Jr., what he was on the Heat and Suns, that's what Grant Nelson would be in the NBA.
Yeah,
a slasher.
Probably more of a 4 than guarding like point guard.
No, I agree with that.
I got what you're saying.
His offensive game is just cutting and slashing and in transition. You don't like, and then defensively, you're hoping that he can guard like 2 through 4.
Yeah, exactly. That's another example. Like that's a guy that I feel like he kind of popped off because that one video, where like it was like that someone just clipped the synergy footage.
You're right. He's 6'5", Derrick Jones, so it is 5 inches taller.
I play too much 2K to not know all this stuff. So yeah, we can pivot now. We can wrap up because we're at like 50
trade candidates.
Trade candidates, yeah. So maybe we can go around. All of us just pick like 2 guys that, or I can maybe just think of 2 guys we're talking about because I think Brandon Ingram is the obvious one that's jumping off the page because like
Cam Thomas, a big name.
Are the Nets gonna trade Cam Thomas though?
Yes. They're trading him.
Yeah,
they're trading
I
him.
think so.
They're trading him.
They don't got belief in him as a franchise.
Why would you pay him? Why would you pick Cam Thomas if you're rebuilding?
What if they think he's that good?
He's up his value right now. You might as well get what you can for him.
Yeah, like I've said this. I told Sam and Scott of this that the most valuable package the Nets have right now, especially to a contending team, is a package of Dorian Finney-Smith with Cam Thomas. It is $18 million. You call up a team like the Lakers can literally trade D'Angelo Russell and like their picks and be able to do that. Like, not saying that that's going to be enough. Or the Timberwolves can trade Dante DiVincenzo and somebody, or Julius Randle for that package. You got the Cavs that they can package Max Strus and somebody else for that. You have so many teams that literally $18 million is such an attainable salary filler that you're basically getting a 25 point per game scorer to now come off your bench, who's going to be probably one of the best scoring six man since Jamal Crawford, and then you have a bona fide lockdown defender who can guard 1 through 4 in Dorian Finney-Smith while also being able to give you 10 points, like 5 rebounds, and mainly shoot 3-pointers. That is a great deal, especially for a team like the Cavs or the Timberwolves or, the Mavericks, if they wanted to like try to even push their chips forward. There are so many teams that would like that pack. The Denver Nuggets would like that. There are.
Oh my gosh, if Denver gets that,
Denver could use someone like that.
So the Warriors would like that if they want. They don't feel like Jonathan Kuminga is there. Package Jonathan Kuminga with Kevon Looney. You can get that. There are so. So the thought is that you could probably get a first round pick, maybe even 2 first round picks for Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Thomas package, because you are giving a team lockdown defender and a whole offense off the bench that like teams are coveting, and his restricted free agency rights.
Yeah, and they probably can throw in another random wing or two in there, like I don't know if they want to move Zaire Williams or like Jalen Wilson. There's some guys on the team.
Zaire, I think they want to.
Now, the whole roster's up for like anyone on the roster can.
I think Zaire though is the guy that they keep as they re-sign him in the offseason to a partial mid-level exception deal, like a 3-year 27, and they have him as like they keep him around for another year, and then they trade him to a contending team because they're like, oh, this is a really good contract. He's a point wing.
Yeah,
who's
Ben Simmons seeking a point wing.
Ben Simmons. I mean, I think they're gonna let that one go. And Ben's probably going to end up in Miami or LA.
Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts on that sort of deal, Sam, with Cam Thomas DFS, or there's another one I wanted to bring up?
The thing with Cam Thomas is he's very polarizing to NBA teams. Like some teams, some guys, some execs either really like him or they feel like he's terrible for their team.
It doesn't contribute to winning basketball.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I think he's gotten a little bit better. Like, the reason why they're even, like, somewhat competitive right now is because I think he's improved in terms of, like, his playmaking, field of the game. I was trying to do a little deep dive into some synergy stuff, and, like, he's making a lot more passes that are, leading to good shots. Like, the Nets aren't making them, but, like...
Cutting back on long twos. He's not taking as many long twos.
I think Jordy as his coach helps, too. Because he kind of toned down on all those bad habits for a lot of the players on the team.
We all know he should be a sixth man though.
Yeah, for sure. He needs the ball to do stuff, and there's only certain teams that he can play on.
Yeah, I thought about a 3-team trade kind of to pivot, because the whole problem with the Jeremy Grant, the Brandon Ingrams, the Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, and the Julius Randles of the world is that there's no team that basically, if you were to trade those guys, you're either getting someone who is equal value that has the same problem, that they have a huge flaw in their game, and that's why you're trading Randall, Ingram, Levine, or something that's flawed about them, and their contract isn't it's overvalued them. So you're either making a lateral move in a trade, or you're going to be trading for someone who isn't as good, so you're not going to get a return on your investment. So that's the whole problem. And I saw someone was saying is like at this point, it wouldn't be surprising if Randall or Ingram were traded for each other, or Levine was traded for Ingram. And that's where I'm at. I would not be surprised in a world if Zach LaVine, were to end up, or like Nick Claxton were to end up in New Orleans, then a guy like Cam Thomas and Dorian, like I would not be surprised if a team that's rebuilding takes on, like, let's say Chicago gets themselves, I don't even know how you would do it, but you convince the Nets and the Pelicans to let you be third fiddle, and you help facilitate like a Levine trade or like an Ingram trade. And that way, if one team is trying to get themselves better, same thing with if Ingram for Randall, because I just don't see those like guys being moved for anybody because you're just dumping. I think Vucevic is more feasible to being moved because Vuce could actually be a sixth man for a team. Like Vuce could probably be like Al Horford for a team and it'd work out. Lonzo Ball is probably going to get sent to a team, bought out, and either go to Charlotte or join the Nuggets, the Heat, one of the Los Angeles teams, or the Knicks. Or he's going to stay on the Bulls and just test free agency. So that's just kind of how I'm looking at it. And then you have, like I said, the whole... I think Nick Claxton's ending up on the Pelicans. Maybe the Atlanta Hawks if Clint Capella is traded. Cam Johnson, I think the Grizzlies or Cavs are there. And then Pat Williams, you got like the Kings, the Blazers are all guys. But I think the big contract guys, it's too hard to move those salaries and it's too much of a lateral move. What do you guys think?
I agree with that kind of the lateral move sort of thing because, yeah, like you said, the contracts are just too hard to put together. The one thing about Ingram I'm going to say, I think you guys saw the news of him switching representation from Excel to Clutch. And, every time someone switches to Clutch, you know what usually happens after. Or if, someone's, actively being shot. I think Anthony Davis, same thing happened, right? He switched to Clutch right before he got traded to the Lakers.
So this is what... I'm just saying this when we said this. I personally think they're either going to trade him at the deadline if it's a gap year, or if they feel like they're going to be good, they're just going to trade him for a guy like Levine, where they're going to have a guy under roster control for a few more seasons, or they're just going to sign and trade him in the offseason. Because they can't let themselves be uncompensated with him. He's going to leave.
Yeah.
Because he stopped the Utah trade. Because the whole thing is, there's teams willing to trade for Brandon Ingram, but he has refused to go there because he doesn't want to re-sign with them.
Yeah. So this is the same deal with the Anthony Davis trade as well. This is the exact same situation, I feel like. Right? Because that whole thing was like Davis only would re-sign with the Lakers or like...
Ingram for Middleton. Like, those are the deals. Like, it's really shitty deals. Like, it's Ingram for Middleton or Ingram for Grant or Ingram for Randall.
Those are like trades when you go on 2K, you do like Trade Finder, like the automatic Trade Finder. Those are the type of moves that they're going to get. Because those are exactly like 1-for-1 value salary matches.
Literally, or you're just trading for a guy that has additional years on his salary, so you have that player under control. You're not leaving uncompensated. Ingram finishes the year on I really think either the Timberwolves, the Bucks, or the Bulls are the most three realistic teams for Brandon Ingram because Brandon Ingram goes, okay, I'll go to the Bucks. We'll try to win a championship. This isn't a great fit, but it's Dame and Giannis. Randall. He's been to New Orleans. It's a little bit of an awkward fit, but Ingram gets to play with Anthony Edwards, and Portland. Jeremy Grant is under contract and fits better with Zion.
Yeah. I think we covered it for most of the guys that want to get traded. Sam, do you have anything else to add about this whole trade stuff?
To the Nets.
Back to the Nets.
I think that the Hornets are the one other team that he could again end up on, but I really think the Hornets are going to take Lonzo Ball. What do you think, Sam? Do you think it's the Nets? Who are going to take D'Angelo Russell? Who the Jazz for Colin Sexton or Jordan Clarkson? Well, the way I see it is the Nets are the only if they can't get Jordan Clarkson or Colin Sexton from the Utah Jazz, and if they're not interested in anybody on the Portland Trailblazers, I think the Nets are the only team that looks at D'Angelo Russell and goes like, hey, your best years were with us. You just want to look, come here. We'll sign you. It'll be cool. No, and no, because Brian Keefe and the whole Wizards team are former Oklahoma City guys. Even though Michael Winger came from the Clippers, they care about defense. They bring in defensive guys, doesn't fit their culture identity. D'Angelo's been to Brooklyn. Sean Marks knows him. They're basically going to be like, look, you rebuild your value. We'll give you a deal. You come here. It'll be kumbaya. And guess what? Lakers, if they can't get Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe they're just like, we'll take Bojan Bogdanovic. Give us some shooting. Or give us Cam Johnson. We'll give you Jalen Hood-Schifino and D'Angelo Russell package.
What a package. D'Angelo Russell, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Might as well just throw Bronny James in there while you're at it.
But you get what I'm saying? But like maybe throw in the pick or whatever. But the whole thing is like Brooklyn is the only team that might actually look at D'Angelo Russell and be like, you know what? We can make lemonade with this lemon, with that lemon. Like, just like...
Yeah, basically their Cam Thomas replacement. I don't know.
They need someone to score points for the next 2 years when they're a shit team. So just have D'Angelo Russell go out there or sell jerseys. People will come. Okay? I remember when he was on the Brooklyn Nets, everybody had a D'Angelo Russell Brooklyn Nets jersey. Everybody.
Dude, who's even in the... I don't even know who's in the bracket right now.
I mean, the Hawks are the team that are the... Look, the Hawks are the team that have the most to gain by winning the NBA Cup.
Is the bracket out yet? The tracker or whatever? Is it set?
NBA. Let me see. So I think the whole thing going on a run, was it the Pacers last year? Was the team that was okay? Pacers. So the Hawks could be this year's Pacers, where they go on a run and they play off this energy, and I think that the only thing, again, it's the second year, so we really can't say anything about the NBA Cup, but the NBA Cup is genuinely, I think, a great way for a team that is young or trying to take those next steps into being competitive to gauge how good they are. And I think the team to gain the most out of this year's NBA Cup, last year's in the Indiana Pacers, this year I do believe it is the Atlanta Hawks. Is their team good enough to go to that level? Are their players able to scale? Because I think depending on their performance in the Cup, it will lead to how aggressive they are at the trade deadline.
Yeah. How does it work with? So I'm looking at the quarterfinals. I assume it's one team per group, right? That's how it shakes out. So I think it's still being determined right now what teams are gonna be, because I think they're still a little bit up in the air, right? So in the East, it's Detroit, New York, and Boston that are still, everyone's out. Everyone else is out, and then in the West, it's a little bit more wide open. Oh my gosh! So the Clippers, Grizzlies, Nuggets, Trailblazers, Thunder, Suns, Mavericks are all still in it. Spurs too. Spurs are still on. Like Spurs and Dallas are 3 and 4. Golden State, Houston made it. So
I think Houston's the other team. Houston, Golden State. I think so. I think those are the three teams that have the most to game. Houston and Golden State and Atlanta are the. Yes, that's what I think. Both Houston and the Hawks, I think, it puts their roster, their young guys, to the test. And again, goes the whole thing. How aggressive will they be this season? Is this season worth trying to pursue aggressive moves to go out to seek, being dark horses for contention in the playoffs? I think the third team is the Golden State Warriors. Their deep rotation of 12 players. I think the NBA Cup could allow Steve Kerr to figure out what players to shorten the rotation with, because they're currently going 12 deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think we could wrap it up here. Yeah, NBA Cup should be interesting. I wasn't really following it that closely, but now I'm talking about it, I think I will a little bit more. So, mission success for the NBA. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Beyond the Arc podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Beyond the Arc 8. You want to guys drop your socials as well, Twitter or whatever.
At Cyro Sale right there.
All right, cool. All right, yeah, thank you everyone for listening.